Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Football Culture Podcast. Our first episode was on football in Seville, and for this second episode we're going to stay on the Iberian Peninsula. In fact, we're going to stay in Spain, and today we're going to be looking at Valencia. Now Valencia is the third biggest city in Spain. Population depends on what you look for really, but it's behind Madrid and Barcelona as the third biggest city, with Sevilla trailing in fourth place. Known for paella and oranges. It's on the east coast of the city. And I have with me two guests today. I have Jimmy Mulvihill, who is in Berlin today. I'm in Sevilla, but he's in Berlin. And also Stuart Atkinson, who is in Valencia itself. So just before we start, Jimmy, you're in Berlin now, but just introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in Valencia.
Yeah, sure. So I'm originally from an Irish family, but I grew up in London. And in about 2013, I decided to leave London, just do a bit of traveling. I went to, travel around about 45, 50 different cities. And Valencia was the one that connected with me the most. The second I got there, came out of the bus garage, walked across this amazing gardens, the old riverbed. And everything connected with me. I had a checklist of everything I needed. It had pretty much everything. It had a couple of football teams. It had a beach. It had a metro system, greenery, everything. So that's the reason why I ended up staying there. Eventually, I moved to Sevilla for work reasons, and then last year I moved to Berlin. But I was back in Valencia earlier this week, and to me, it's easily the best city in Europe. I think it just has everything. Especially the cost of living. Up until COVID, I mean, I was paying €450 a month for a two-bedroom place, the very centre of town, while friends of mine in London were paying 5 times the amount, So at the moment I'm in Berlin, but definitely if work wasn't a factor, I'd move back to Valencia today.
Okay. And maybe an extra part-time job for the Valencia Tourist Board. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Stu, tell us a bit about yourself and how you ended up in Valencia.
As you can tell from the accent, I'm Scottish. I was born in a little town just outside Glasgow. I was working in Newcastle, and I was working as a lab-based researcher there, and we needed to move out of our lab space because it was getting renovated. And I was told basically, okay, we're going to move to Valencia for a year or two. I knew Valencia from the Mendieta football team. They played against my team, Rangers. So I kind of knew about Valencia, but my move to Valencia was almost accidental. But I came here for a year. I extended it for 2 years. And at the end of the 2 years, I thought, I'm never going to leave here. I'm never going to leave Valencia. It's just such an awesome place to be.
I've heard good things about it. I've got a few friends down here in Seville that used to live in Valencia. And kind of similar story to me. I came to Sevilla for 3 months, and I'm still here 4 years later. So these cities in Spain can grip you.
Okay, yeah, 15 years for myself now.
Yeah. So Valencia has two football teams. Okay, so everyone's probably going to know Valencia CF, the main club. I think it's fair to say. The European successes, the European football, La Liga titles. But there's also another club within the city, which people may not have heard quite so much about, called Levante. Now, on our previous episode in Seville, we were saying how Sevilla is quite unique in Spain in the sense that for a city of its size, it has two really, really big football clubs. Whereas Valencia is a little bit different, where there's definitely a disparity, similar to Barcelona, where one club is very much bigger than the other. But what people might not know is the original club within the city was actually Levante. And Jimmy, you're a Levante fan. So moving to Valencia from London, why Levante? Why not head to the Mestalla, where you can see in the museum the European conquest and the La Liga titles?
Well, the reason I started supporting Levante was the same reason I started supporting Arsenal in the UK. At the time, Arsenal had a big connection with Irish players, David O'Leary, Liam Brady, Niall Quinn. And Levante used to have Ian Hart as their captain for a bit, another Irish player. So before I moved to Valencia, I'd always seen Ian Hart, Levante, just because I always keep the tabs on the Irish players. And then just when I was on the coach coming in there on the bus, we drove past the Levante Stadium. I was like, oh, at the time I was only meant to stay in Valencia for a week. And I thought, oh, I'll try to catch a game. And there was a game the next day. So I caught a game and that was it, really. So I decided, yeah, it's more fun anyway, supporting the underdog. Because at the time, I think Valencia were in a weird situation where they should have been kind of really challenging for the title. But of course, when you come up against Real Madrid and Barcelona, it's pretty much, impossible to expect to be winning the title. So I worked out pretty quickly it would be quite a tough task, supporting Valencia. So I thought I may as well go for the underdog, where success isn't expected. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say it's more of like a relaxing experience going to watch them, in the sense that there's no real expectation there, so almost anything's a bonus?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, when I got my first season ticket, it was €165. And my sister, she's an Arsenal fan, she's paying over £1,000. And when you're paying over £1,000, there is a lot of pressure. You have to be doing well. But for me, I just like the fact that there was the low expectations at Levante. Our thing was that if we avoid relegation, that's it, we do great. If we get one or two good results a year, that's a good season. And for me, there's a big appeal for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Levante have spent, I believe, the vast majority of their history outside of the Primera Division in La Liga. Yeah. So second division, third division, the third division in its various forms, but more often than not the second division rather than the third. And of course, they were the first club formed within the city.
That's actually a thing for debate about the people.
Okay.
Because Levante FC were founded in 1909. Mm-hmm. Then in 1919, Valencia were formed. And then in 1923, two teams came together to form Levante UD, Union Deportivo.
Okay.
So two teams came together,
The Gymnastica or something like that,
yes,
was it?
Exactly, yeah. Gymnastica and Levante FC. So Gymnastica, I believe, were based around Cabanyal. Yeah. And you had two teams. One of them had to sell a lot of players in order to keep afloat. The other one had to sell their stadium to keep afloat. So then basically the two chairmen got together and said, well, one of us got a stadium, one of us has got players. Why don't we just come together and unite our supporter base, Mm-hmm. And at the time...
interesting. So if things have been different, I mean, Levante were the first club in the city, or at least Levante, the amalgamated Levante UD were the main club of the city by the docks. Did they have quite a working class support, I guess, if they were down by the docks?
Well, the supporters were by the docks. The original stadium was very, very close to the Turia River. There's a big where Valencia used to be a walled city. You have the Serranos Towers, and right that there's a metro station called Ponte Fusta, which is where the tram comes in. That's where the original Levante Stadium was, and then we moved to our current location in 1969.
Okay.
So as I say, a lot of the Valencia fans will say, "Well, we were first because we were founded in 1919, and then in the current format that was in 1923." The fans will say, "Well, we were actually 1909." But we came together in 1923,
Yeah, because I was thinking, what's gone wrong at Levante, in the sense that if they started first, they could have made the city theirs early on and stayed as it could have been a one club city like Newcastle or Leeds, but something else happened, which brings us on to the other club in the city, Valencia. So, Stu, you're a Valencia fan. Why not go down Jimmy's route and go for the low expectations and relaxed idea of Levante?
I think for the first couple of years I was here, I treated living here like a holiday, like being a tourist. Mm-hmm. And a couple of the people that I bumped into in the bars, they were all Valencia fans. Valencia were playing in the Champions League, the Europa League. And it was just, you could pick up tickets quite cheap. A lot of friends would be had spare tickets. So I just continued going along here and there. And then going to Mestalla is just amazing. Such a great atmosphere there. And basically would occasionally turned into buying a half-year season ticket, which then turned into buying the full-on season ticket. And it's very, very cheap as well. I think even now, I pay €450 where I am. But if we were in Europe, that would be free. Copa del Rey is free. So 1 year, And one year when we got to Europa League semi-final, we won we won the Copa del Rey. You just got an incredible amount of matches for not a lot of money. So it was almost by accident. I came to Valencia by accident. I became a Valencia fan by accident.
Yeah, so it's like top level football at cheap price. I mean, I'm a real Betis fan, and you do, when you arrive in a city, you think, I like watching football, so I'm just going to go watch some football. But then you don't realise it kind of creeps up on you and it gets under your skin, and then you realise you're a supporter of another club. Like, you've kind of got two teams. You've got your team from back home, and then you've got your team here.
I have to admit to being a bit of a glory hunter, though. I did go to a few Levante matches when they were in I don't know if it was the Europa League or the old Cup Winners' Cup or something.
Yeah.
They played against. I saw the games against Hanover and Ruben Kazan, I think.
Yeah. Olympiacos and Motherwell, and yeah.
Or was it Motherwell? I missed Motherwell. I should have been going to that one.
Motherwell was the preliminary round, so
right,
it was to qualify for the tournament. Yeah, but then they play against Ruben Kazim, Olympiacos, Hanover,
That was a while ago now, though. 10 years,
that
maybe?
was 2011 to 12. That was,
Oh, wow. Okay.
Previous year we'd come sixth. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got two clubs within the city. Levante, for those that don't know, is actually the region where Valencia is. Some people call it Levante, and it's because the sun rises in the east of Spain, and it comes from Levantase, to rise. And also they even here in Seville, like down in Cadiz, they talk of the Levante, the winds from the east. So this is where Levante gets its name from. Obviously, Valencia's name is a bit more obvious. So now you've got a situation where, I mean, Valencia could probably. So Spain's interesting in the sense that the two biggest clubs, there's no argument about that. We all know it's Real Madrid and Barcelona. These days, I think it's fair to say it's probably accepted the third biggest club now is Atletico, because they do have a big support, they do have a big history, but in the Simeone era, they have consistently been at the top, they have won titles, they have won trophies. But I think in Spain there's lots of not lots, but there's a handful of other clubs that can all claim to be like the next biggest club. And I'd say that's probably Bilbao, Sevilla, Betis, and Valencia, I would say, that are the ones with. Sociedad might have something to say about that, Deportivo La Coruña, from what they did 20 odd years ago, but I would say those would be the ones that would have a claim for various reasons. You know, Bilbao could look to trophies many years ago, and they do have a big support. Betis, sadly, we could probably only call upon fan base. Sevilla could call upon fan base and you know, European success. But Valencia really do have like a quite a good claim in the modern era. You know, they've got 6 La Liga titles, 2 Champions League finals, Copa del Rey's in recent years. So there's obviously a massive disparity really between the size of the two clubs. So what's the rivalry like when they meet each other? I mean, because Sevilla and Betis is a hatred. You know, I think it's the same in Madrid, but what's it like in Valencia? Is it like a heated rivalry, or is it a bit like an older brother, little brother kind of thing?
Probably the latter.
Yeah, definitely. I think when Valencia are playing, I think if Valencia win, it's just more relief that Levante haven't beaten them. You know, because we're expected to lose. Levante are expected to lose. And I remember there was a time, I think it's 2020 or 2021, when Levante won, and you could just see on the way to the ground, you could see that the supporters were just so nervous. The Valencia supporters, you know, it was definitely, it's a game. They just want to win. They just want to get it over with. You know, if you offered them a draw, I think certain times they'd just take it. Whereas Levante have nothing to lose. We may as well give it our best shot and everything.
Is there any? Sorry, go on, Stuart.
I was saying I was at a Levante-Valencia match in the Levante Stadium because a friend had a spare ticket. So I just went along incognito. You know, I wasn't good. I think we were 1-0 down. I think we ended up winning 2 or 3-1.
Yeah.
But when Valencia scored, I was like, okay, right, good. But just, clap or just moan, pretend you're a Levante fan. But then 10 seats away, there's Valencia fans jumping up and down, screaming that they just scored a goal. In with the Levante fans, I'm like, Wow. Okay. If you did that, I mean, I've seen Barcelona and Real Madrid fans in Mestalla nearly getting their heads kicked in for doing something like that.
Yeah.
Is it like a one-way thing? Is it like Levante hate Valencia more than Valencia hate Levante, or does that not exist either?
I don't think
there's a hatred there.
I don't think there is. No.
Okay, interesting.
I think over the last few years there have been quite a few players that have done well for Levante that have then gone to Valencia for free, and that like
Pepe Lu's the captain now.
Yeah.
He's our next Levante player.
Yeah, exactly. Pepe Lu and Jason went there.
Of course.
And it was kind of really annoying because these were players that Levante really, really, took on when they weren't very good. They got them all up and they improved them, and then they went off and played for Valencia. I think that has really stuck in the throat of a lot of Levante fans. That's really frustrated them. But the players were just obvious. They were just honest and said, my life is in Valencia. I want to keep playing. And this is a step up for me. I don't need to move house. If I've got kids in school, don't need to do that. So it's just very practical reasons. But I remember a lot of the Levante fans I spoke to were really furious about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. I mean, he was a cracking player. He's now become our captain. So that's what he could have been, a player at Levante. We also nicked a striker off you for basically nothing, and he sits on the bench and hardly plays. So it's a shame, I guess.
That's it. These are players that could be defining players for us, but are just squad players for Valencia, which really does show the discrepancy between the two teams. Yeah.
And the newspapers are constantly identifying, okay, these two Levante players are great. When are Valencia going to buy them?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then over recent years, we've took in like Soldado and Mustafi, both of which were former Valencia players. The difference being
as well, I think.
Yeah. The difference being is that when they were playing for Valencia, they were actually good players. By the time they came to us, their career basically finished, and in all cases, it wasn't a great signing. But
Mustafi played 2 games, did he?
Yeah,
I mean, he hardly played.
I mean that was basically the reason that we got relegated that year, because both those players came in on big money, and the rest of the squad was like, hang on a sec. Last year we came 11th, got to the semi-final of the Copa del Rey. These new players are coming in on triple the wages, and they've not contributed anything towards this, and it caused a lot of disharmony that year. We didn't win any of our first 19 games that season, and that was it. We were relegated because of that, because of 2 former Valencia players. It was frustrating, but I think there is
a statistic like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So is there? Because I went to Valencia once for a week, and I went to a game at the Mestalla. Levante were away, and I enjoyed it. It was a bit of a shame though. I loved the stadium, but I couldn't really tell on the atmosphere because the ultras had called for a boycott because of the ownership, which we'll come on to later. So my ticket was really cheap because they dropped the prices because they weren't selling them, but the stadium had about 20,000 in. So it was great being in the Mestalla, but it was kind of like, this isn't really, the true Valencia experience. But I had a good day. But in a bar after, a guy was saying to me that in Valencia, it's very, very possible to have someone who actually supports both clubs in the sense that they want both of them to do well. They could be, say, a Valencia fan primarily, but they're quite happy if Levante do well. Is that the case?
Oh, for sure. From my side, one of my friends has a season ticket for both teams. He actually started off being a Betico, moved to Valencia. I think he's been on and off a season ticket holder for 20 years, something like that in Valencia. Also has a ticket for Levante. 1 year, I think, if you went to all the games, you got a free season ticket the next year. So, of course, you keep on going. You get to see Barcelona, Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Bilbao twice a year,
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I just for the record, I've actually had 2 season tickets at Valencia as well, simply because nobody would come to the Levante games with me. So
that's a shame.
Well, yeah, just because at the time I think it was Valencia doing very well, and I thought, well, I want to also go to some games. So I actually had season tickets for both teams at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously it sounds like it all sounds like this big happy family of Valencian football fans and everything, like very different from down here in Seville. So is there anything that differentiates the fan bases? is it just random, or is it families, or is it based on what part of the city you're from, or is there any socio-political things, any class-based thing or anything like that?
I don't know how true this is, but I have heard historically in Valencia, you got to have Spanish language. You also have Valenciano as well. I have heard, and I'm not sure, be interested to hear Stuart's thoughts on this, is that Valencia was more the Spanish team, whereas Levante was more the Valenciano team.
Okay.
A lot of the anthem for Levante was originally in Valenciano, which I've heard is one of the reasons that Levante did not do well, because of course at the time you had the Franco dictatorship, and it was kind of hard for a team like that to get much backing. Nowadays, I don't think that's the case. I think historically it might have been, but I don't think it's the case now.
Valencia, we've stolen this idea of playing the regional anthem before the games. Most things are in Valenciano over the Tannoy system, so there is, when we play against Barcelona, there's a certain hatred, shall we say, for Catalonia. Yeah. And there's a few Viva Españas coming from the ultras, so perhaps there is some historically correctness in there.
I heard there used to be quite a lot of warmth between Valencia and Barcelona, and that ended around the 90s or early 90s. And also a friend of mine said that in Valencia they just seemed to hate either Madrid. So when Madrid arrived in town, they would sing Puta Real Madrid, Puta Capital, and they'd be waving around Valencia flags. And then when Barcelona would visit, they would chant Puta Barca, Puta Català, and wave Spanish flags. So it's almost as if they just wanted to nose off whoever was visiting, and change their identity depending on whether they wanted to have a go at.
Okay. We also ended up selling a lot of our players to Barcelona, so there was a lot of hatred from that as well.
Yeah.
So it's a similar idea. Levante's, us buying players off Levante and then Barcelona buying players off of Valencia.
Yeah, it's interesting in Valencia because you have the language thing, which, and this is a controversial subject for the people there, but
let's see what you say here.
Yeah. So the language is not an official language, but it is a language that is used. But there are people say that it's just a dialect of Catalan. It's too similar to Catalan. What's the thoughts on that? Is that something people accept, or is there like any kind of movement where they're like, no, this is our own language and we have our own identity, like the Catalans say they have theirs?
There's very much a pro-Valencian kind of feeling. We've just had the Nav d'Octubre celebrations for Valencia becoming the city, and there's processions, and there was very much a lot of people there. We are against Los Países Catalanes. We are pro-Valencian. We have our Valencian language. It's a co-official language. They're very proud of it, and they don't. A lot of people do not like this idea that it's just a bit of Catalan when it's not. I don't think.
Is there any resentment towards Madrid and the idea of Spain? Because it doesn't strike me that there's any kind of like Valencian independence movement or anything like that. It's like they're comfortable having a slightly different culture within Spain.
Yeah, I could never see like an independence movement really gaining pace in Valencia, because it's only an hour and 40 minutes away from Madrid. During the Spanish Civil War, for 3 years, Valencia was the capital of Spain, because Madrid was taken over quite quickly, and Valencia was the part of Spain that had the most resistance to Franco. So they moved the government there for 3 years. We were
one of the last places to fall, I think.
Exactly. It was the last major city, the last major city to fall. Yeah.
So there's no love for Madrid at all. There's no Valencian separatist idea, but again, it's not a huge thing. Oh, we love Spain. It's just somewhere sitting in the middle. I think they're just proud of being Valencians.
Yeah,
and everything else is.
I think it's similar down here in the sense people are very proud of being Andalusian, but at the same time they've got no resentment to the idea of being Spanish either. The national team comes, they'll go and watch them. They'll support the national team. And I think, after outside of Madrid, of the major stadiums, like Seville and Valencia are the preferred major cities to play in for that reason. Although I did hear that they don't like to play at the Mestalla too much because there's apparently it's an unlucky ground for the national team. I don't know how true that is, but that's something that I heard. Otherwise, they're very comfortable playing there.
But, I can't remember the last time the Spanish national team came here.
Okay, so the rivalry between Levante and Valencia seems pretty friendly, but a span has been thrown in the works somewhat in the last few decades with the rise of a club from a pretty small village called Villarreal, backed with money from the Mercadona supermarket. So what's that done to the rivalry? Is how do Valencia and how do the Levante feel about Villarreal?
I mean, it's important to remember up until the late 80s, Villarreal were a fourth division team, and the town has barely got 45,000 people, or is it 50,000, something like that. I've been there a few times. It is a very small town. So I think even though it's, Villarreal got to a European semi-final 20 years ago, I still think that Valencia, it's hard for Valencia to get their heads around the fact that Villarreal are a natural threat to them. Even though Villarreal, I would say, now are a much more successful team. It's just because you see the size of the city and everything, and Villarreal has made so many correct decisions along the way, and Valencia has made so many mistakes along the way. And the fact that they're still kind of on a level footing kind of shows the fact of how much bigger Valencia is. Valencia is where it is in spite of decisions that they've made. I remember there recently this Copper 90, well, probably a couple of years now, this Copper 90 documentary came out about the Valencian derby. And I had two friends messaging me, there's a Copper 90 about the Valencian derby. I went to YouTube and it was about Valencia versus Villarreal. And I was like, I thought it'd be
That's not right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's an hour away by train. It's not like we're not talking about you can walk between the two football clubs. It's an hour away by train.
Yeah.
But I think that there is definitely a rivalry there because, Villarreal have won a European trophy, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
With they had Unai Emery.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like them. I'm not keen on them for one reason. They, as Jose has gone there, collecting the Mercadona money. Well, there was a few years ago, I don't know if you saw a newspaper story, there was a huge rat had broken into Mercadona, and the headline was El Grande Rat en Mercadona, which is fairly self-explanatory, but for non-Spanish speakers, there is a huge rat in Mercadona, and that is now as Jose by the Betis fans is now known as the El Grande Rat of in Mercadona. But for a small, for representing a small place, they're like, they're very, very well run. I mean, you can't criticise that. They've had money put into them, but it's been spent very, very wisely. Whereas I think it's fair to say, Stu, Valencia have not been down the smartest of routes in a long time, have they?
No, I mean, even before now, 20, 30 years ago, we were not being run very well, even when we were doing really, really well, according to what I've read and what people have said. Yeah. And that's obviously led to Peter Lim coming in and pumping a couple £100 million into the club, which has not gone very well.
I was going to say, he should be asking for his money back, but then having said that, he's running the club, so it's his decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I think Valencians were almost happy for the club to be run into the ground as long as it was a Valencian person who was doing it. Now it's somebody who's not Valencian, they're going crazy. They do not like it at all.
Yeah, Valencia have got. Sorry, they've kind of got the worst. They've kind of got the worst of both worlds because my partner, she supports. She used to support Austria Salzburg, and they got to UEFA Cup final in '95, and then suddenly overnight Red Bull bought the team because Red Bull is based in Salzburg, and then suddenly they said we're going to change the name of the team, we're going to sell all the players, we're going to change the colours of the team, we're going to change the stadium. There was no connection with the old one. And I feel that on one hand, that's really bad. But on the other hand, they won the league 10 years in a row. So at least you get the success. But I think Valencia have had the worst of both worlds. They've kind of had the heart and soul ripped out of the club, but they haven't had the success. And it's,
Yeah.
weirdly enough, I honestly think if Red Bull announced that they wanted to buy Valencia and turn it into the Valencia Red Bulls, I think a lot of fans would be like, well, the heart and soul's already been ripped out of the club. At least we might win the title a few times now, and that's how bad it's got. I think you either have a heart and soul of a club or you have success. I think Levante clearly have not had the success, but I think there's a lot of heart and soul about the club. And I think that the fans, I think the Valencia fans have got so much patience to have put up with what they put up with. And
Yeah.
I think that that's, in a way, that's the reason why there's such a bond, I think, between the two teams, because as a Levante fan, you kind of do feel sorry for them because, the Valencia fans have supported that team through thick and thin, or recently through thin and thin.
Yeah.
It's just really sad to see what's happened to them. It's weird for a Levante fan to have sympathy for a Valencia. Yeah.
The crazy thing is that we're actually, I mean, ever since when Peter Lim came in, we actually did okay at the start. We had a couple of good managers in. We got to the Europa League semi-finals a couple of times. We won the Copa del Rey, but then everything's gone downhill the last couple of years. We're selling players. We're hardly buying any players. The season ticket numbers have continued to rise. We sell more and more season tickets every year, so we're just gluttons for punishment. I think there's nearly 40,000 season ticket holders. That might be wrong, but it's a huge amount. I think it might be the third or the fourth amount most in La Liga. So that Mestalla is rammed every single week to watch utter garbage at the moment, unfortunately. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's interesting to see whether. I mean, I remember a couple of seasons ago. I mean, Valencia came to Benito Villamarín hoping to stay up. They could have gone down that day. As it turned out, it didn't really matter what the result. They got a point, but it didn't really matter what the result was because it was a weird relegation battle. There's like 7 or 8 teams could go down, and it turned out that the standings were more or less the same as they were before the day started. So what could have been an exciting day wasn't. But the very fact that Valencia were even in that conversation is shocking. I mean, they've had 4 seasons in the second division. 2 were in the 1930s, and the other 2 were in the 80s when they had a bit of a meltdown. And it must as well to see Villarreal doing so well, challenging for Europe all the time. That for Valencia. I mean, where can we look back and see where it started to go wrong with Valencia? I mean, could we say it was around the time of the start of building the Nouveau Mestalla, which is they started building in the mid 2000s and is now still incomplete shell within the city.
Yeah. I came here in 2009 and they have done nothing with the Nouveau Mestalla since then, and they need hundreds of millions of pounds to finish it, which I don't see happening. They say obviously things have gone down since Peter Lim, but I think the club was rotten from the inside before that.
Yeah.
And what?
But we can't forget they reached 2 Champions League finals in a row around the turn of the millennium. So having seen how many people want to go to games there, I think there was nothing wrong with them wanting to build a 75,000 seater stadium, so long as they actually did it. The problem was that they said we're gonna take out massive bank loans, we're gonna then sell the current ground, and that was in about 2007. And then of course they had that valued, and then they said, wow, we're gonna get so much money from this, we may as well expand the stadium even more. Then of course the next year the property crash happened, and the land wasn't worth as much as it was the previous year, and they didn't have the finances to finish it. Now, my dad, he spent 45 years being a shuttering carpenter, so he basically builds molds and you pour concrete into them, and that's how stadiums are built. When I showed him the photos of that, he said, well, unless they've sealed the current stadium, it's not meant to be exposed to the weather like that. You're meant to build a concrete stadium, then you're supposed to clad it with this thing to make it rainproof, and the sun will damage the concrete. He said, if it's been sitting there for 15 years, is it still safe? I mean,
I heard that, the same thing. Yeah.
There is an assumption that the stadium is fine as it is, but it was never meant to be exposed to the thing. You've only got to look at Grenfell to see that things like when assumptions are made, it's not a good thing. It would not surprise me one bit if they had to rip that stadium down and start it again. And they've spent, 460 million on it?
Ridiculous amount. And you're right. I've heard the similar thing. It's been sitting out there in the cold and in the sun and then the rain for 15 years now.
And concrete expands and it contracts and expands. And that's happened 15 times in a row. And Yeah.
Yeah, that takes its toll.
Haven't they? Don't they have to pay someone to be there every day or something, like under some kind of law?
Technically, the building site has never stopped. Apparently, you have one guy walking around with a wheelbarrow sweeping up things because technically it's still a building
I want
site.
that job. I wonder how much.
Yeah.
I want that job, man.
It's a nice area as well.
Yeah. And I can because that area, it's not the nicest part of Valencia, but however, it has developed a lot over the last 20 years.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's the casino. There's lots of nice flats up there now.
There's lots of,
but it wasn't a great place.
Yeah, it wasn't at the time, and I can understand the rationale behind it. I wouldn't agree with it. I think the current stadium is great. I think it's so historic. It's in a great location. I can understand though why they did it, but they just executed it so badly. Like it was, beyond. And also, let's not forget about the fact that 3 people died on that building site, and that was the reason it got shut down for the first time. Valencia said, "Oh, we subcontracted it out," and then they subcontracted it out, and at that point, I think it was quite clear the project was not going well. That's the reason it stopped originally. I think it was a crane operator, something dropped from a crane, and I can't remember now. Wow. I think that was it. And that kind of shows how bad things were being done.
It's a horrible stadium as well. It's one of these open bowls which they seem to love building. Mestalla right now is so steep that where we sit, you can hear the goalkeeper, you can hear Mamardashvili shouting at the defenders. You can hear leather on leather. It's fantastic. I don't want it to be like Barcelona playing the Olympic Stadium right now, that you're so far away from the action you can't see anything. What would be the point?
Yeah, it's that's one of the unique things about Mestalla is I can't think of a stadium that steep with that kind of capacity. I mean, the Bombonera in Buenos Aires, Boca Juniors, is very, very steep, but that's 49,000. Mind you, it's 3-sided, but a lot of it's standing. There's three tiers of terracing behind both goals. But yeah, it's a great stadium, and to be honest, I'm not a Valencia fan, so I'm not really bothered about the progression of the club or the finances of the club. And I'm kind of like, oh no, I'm quite happy that they just stay at Mestalla because it's just a great ground. It's just like they should stay there as long as possible. I know it doesn't have the modern facilities. When I went there, it's a bit like being in a car park under the stand. There's not much there, but
it's terrible.
Yeah, as long as you see the game, and of course you've got Manolo El Bombo. He had a bar nearby. Is he still there or?
No.
Yeah, he retired. Yeah.
He had to. I think his wife gave him a good talking to, and he stopped and he sold the bar and everything. But yeah, he used to be able to go around to his bar and have a few cans, have a few catayas before going in.
Well, I met him. I didn't know about him, right? So I went to Valencia, didn't know about him. I walked in his bar. There's this guy with this sombrero behind the bar. There's loads of people in there taking pictures of him, like tourists. And I was like, why do they take tourists of just some old guy who runs a bar? What's all this about? And then I went to the toilet and I looked on the wall and I was like, hang on, this is loads of pictures of the guy behind the bar. So I did a bit of a Google. And then this is the guy that follows Spain everywhere. He's a huge Valencia fan, huge Spain fan, follows them everywhere. He's a bit of a celebrity, he's always on the front of the paper and on the TV, banging his drum when there's a tournament on and all this. So I thought, okay. So I got another beer and he served me. And I went and put my money in my back pocket. And he said to me, are you going to the football? And this was in Spanish, but he said, are you going to the football? I said, yeah. And he said, in that case, he said, put your money in your front pocket. He said, it's not safe in there to have your money in your back pocket. Someone might take it. And I was like, oh, thank you. So I was like, great. So I've got, that was part of my trip. I got safety advice from Manalo Bombo, which was pretty cool.
No, I had a story similar to that. I was going to a Valencia game in the year that I had the season ticket. And then just as I was approaching the bar, I had a call from my sister saying that my dad had been found at home, collapsed. And we weren't sure what had happened. We thought he'd had a heart attack. And so, of course, I was quite upset. And then Manolo started trying to talk to me because we chatted every week. And then my friends were like saying to him, oh, leave it. He's just had some bad news. His dad's been found, And then he said, oh, what was the problem? And I said, oh, we think it's a heart attack. And then he lifted up his shirt and he's like, I had a heart attack. Come here. I'm fine. Your dad will be fine, And he was putting his arm around me and being all,
That's great.
fatherly and everything. Cool. Yeah, and it was a really nice story, And a couple of weeks later, when I went back to the bar, he said, "Oh, how's your dad?" And I said, "Oh, he's fine, actually." Just turned out it was something else. But he almost sees himself as the father of all the Valencia fans. Or mate, not even. I mean, his bar's right next to the stadium, but it's more like of Spanish fans, because I think he only missed one game ever in 30 years with the
Yeah.
national team, and that was when he had a heart attack.
Yeah, I think that was actually the World Cup final when they won it in 2010. So he missed the actual final when they lifted the World Cup. Exactly, of all games to miss.
Oh, jeez.
It's that one after following them for so long. Yeah.
I think a lot of the away fans end up going in there as well. From the European games, you see some of the. I remember I wasn't there, but when Ghent came to play Valencia, they had. I think one of their guys had the full headdress on because I think on their badge is a guy with an Indian headdress on. Guy in there, Manolo was in there giving beers to everybody. It was great fun.
Yeah.
He sounds like a dude. The father of the Valencian and Spanish fans, and also for me that day, a Bristol City fan on holiday. So yeah, it doesn't matter where you come from. He's
there.
No, not at all.
So there's been a bit of a decline, obviously, at Valencia before Peter Lim, but it's probably pretty safe to say it's got worse under him. Although there was a Copa del Rey, which just seems now like an anomaly, really. I don't know, but. Stu, where's it gone wrong at Valencia? What is Lim doing? Because obviously the fans want him out. You see the placards, the Lim go home, as they put it, placards at the matches. They obviously want him out. What is it he's done to run the club into the ground, or as far as the fans are concerned?
There's the constant rotation of terrible managers. We got rid of people like Marcelino, and we got rid of several decent managers, and we got in people like Celades and Prandelli. Unai Emery, of course. So we had these amazing managers. I mean, Marcelino got sacked for winning the Copa del Rey.
Yeah.
Basically.
And
Peter Lim said, "We don't care about the Copa del Rey. We want to get into the Champions League." I think that year we might have. I don't know if we qualified or not, but we won the Copa del Rey against Barcelona. One of the best days of my life.
Yeah.
But it was just he got sacked. We got these terrible managers in, and then we started getting all of our older, better players off, like basically selling them for next to nothing or letting them leave just to get them off of the wage bill.
Yeah.
Spending very little every single summer just trying to get in free transfers. We spent 1.35 million euros this summer, which is less than most Segunda teams.
Yeah, it seems like Lim's trying to do it on the cheap.
And he still thinks that we're going to do well. Yeah, I think he's just trying every time is, we need to spend $1 million on this player. It goes back to him for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks go over, and it's like, no, we're not buying him. Sorry, if you want to buy this person, you need to sell this person. So it's very much, we want to sell high and buy in cheap.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, that's one of the major problems.
If you look at some of the players that Valencia have sold over the years, they sold David Villa for 40 million. They sold David Silva to Man City. They sold Juan Mata, and then he got Player of the Year twice at Chelsea and once at Man United. These are three players that could have really pushed them towards Champions League success, And every time they made
Jordi Alba as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Some of the players that they signed.
We have had some amazing players coming through.
Yeah. Yeah. Although you have never had a Ballon d'Or winner playing for you, have you? Or did Mendieta win it? Because Levante have. We've had a Ballon d'Or winner playing for us.
I know the answer to this question, Jimmy. But he was definitely past his best when he was playing for you. But it would be a Dutchman by any chance?
Yeah. Johan Cruyff. Yeah, he played for Levante for a season. Yeah. I think that's one of the few things Levante has over Valencia, that they have had a Ballon d'Or winner playing. Obviously he didn't win it when he was with us, but Valencia spent 25.
We might have one. We might have one this year.
Who's that?
So we might have a Ballon d'Or winner this year for the goalkeeper for the Ballon d'Or Yashin Trophy, Mamardashvili. He's been nominated for that.
But he's
signed for Liverpool.
Yeah. But But again, he's one of the best up and coming goalkeepers in Europe, and Valencia are selling him again, which you can't be doing that season upon season expecting to do well. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
30, 40 million pounds, you can't say no to that.
Yeah.
I think there was.
Or euros, sorry.
I think there was Lim's not helping himself in the sense that the fans all seem to hate him. And when he brought in Gary Neville, Gary Neville himself has said, I said to him, this is not a good idea, don't bring me in. And he did it as a favour.
Yeah.
And he said, I had a terrible time, it was awful.
Yeah.
And then I think I heard as well a couple of years ago, there was criticism, and Lim or someone who was his spokesperson or a member of his family or something said, we don't care what the fans think, it's our club or my club, and we'll do what we want. And that's the worst thing you can say to a fan base, isn't it, really? I mean, it's just like...
I think it was one of his nieces, and it's basically, don't tell me this, we don't care. We do what we want.
And that was pretty soon after they won the Copa del Rey, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
But he doesn't come to any of the matches. I think he came to a few at the start. Hasn't been for years. I think they've even removed his box now. And anybody that seems to be on his side is treated pretty badly in Valencia right now.
Surprising. I'm surprised someone hasn't tried to come in and buy the club off him on the cheap, and do something there. But
I think it's because he's invested a lot of money. Yeah.
I also think that he owns Valencia as a bit of a boast. It's, look at me, I'm a millionaire, a billionaire. I have a football team. Look at me. Mm-hmm. It's like having a Ferrari or a yacht. They don't really care how the Ferrari runs. They don't care what the boat's like. They just have it. They need to have that on their mantelpiece as their boasting point.
I don't know though. He's got a stake in Salford City, so he can always show that off to his mates.
50%.
Yeah. He's got to have a Salford City.
The other 5 Man United, ex-Man United players have got 10% each. Beckham and the Nevilles and all that. I think it's a weird situation. Oh, did he? Okay. Yeah. But it's a really weird situation with Levante and Valencia because I think both teams are quite envious of the other team. I think off the pitch, I think Levante are very, very well run. We signed Keylor Navas for 60,000, but then we sold him to Real Madrid for 10 million. With some of that money, we spent it on I'm just trying to remember his name now. The guy who was sold to Bournemouth for 30 million, Colombian. And then with that money, we put a roof on our stadium. We bought a new training pitch in Buñol. These are the things, the infrastructure. We we improved the stadium. We built the training pitch. So off the pitch, we're doing all right. We've kind of got our all our ducks in a row. But on the pitch, it hasn't gone as well. Whereas Valencia is the complete opposite. On the pitch, they've won a few Copa del Reys. They've challenged for the title a few years, but everything off the pitch has just been so shambolic. So if you could kind of get the two teams to come together, you'd have the perfect team. It's a bit of a weird situation.
We could come together again.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Like 100 years ago. I doubt anybody would go for that though.
No. Although at one point, Valencia did ask Levante about 8 years ago, did you want to share the new stadium with us? Because if you can give us some money, we can get it over the line. And Levante are like, no, because we're playing in a 26,000 seat stadium. It's like, when Bayern Munich and 1860 Munich, when they shared the Allianz for a year, Munich were packing it out. 1860 were getting like 10,000 people to their games in a 75,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
And Levante are like,
I went to a match there. 1860 in the Allianz, and there was more grey seats than there was 1860 fans. Yeah,
that's it. And that's the weird thing because I think that both teams kind of think, oh God, that could be us. Levante see what's happening at Valencia and think, oh my God, this could happen to us. And Valencia see Levante in the second division. And I think that this is the weird. The name of the podcast is the football. It's about the culture of football, and it's very different. In America, you have a lot of the big teams. They only have one team in the city. Like in Chicago, there's only Chicago Bulls and all this, and there's a certain sort of culture that comes with that. The great thing about European sport is that when you have different teams in the city, you have such a more textured rivalry between them, and I think both of the teams are really grateful for the fact that they've got that. I think weirdly enough, Levante are like, well, at least when we play Valencia, at least they know where we are. Because when Levante play other teams, half the time they don't know where Levante are based. Whenever I tell people I'm a Levante fan, they say, "Oh, you can always see them back to ask where are they based." And then when I see Valencia, they say, "Oh yeah, Valencia, Valencia." So that's what really makes the rivalry. In a weird way, people might say, "Well, if you're friends in each other, well, what's the point?" It's like, but the whole point is that we're sharing the same city. That is the rivalry. You don't need to hate each other to have a rivalry.
A brotherly rivalry more than anything else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we might be playing next season, because right now the way Valencia are going, we're going to get relegated. So.
Yeah.
It's not looking good. So there's another interesting thing as well. So with all the fuss about the Oasis tickets, and so for people who don't know, there was a thing where people who were queuing for Oasis ticket, because the demand was so high, when they eventually got through to buy the tickets, they jumped up in price a lot higher than they were supposed to be. So this is apparently a supply and demand thing. So the more something's in demand, then the higher the price. Now, Peter Lim thinking, the whole fan base hates me, the team's terrible, really I should do something to try and get people back on side, some goodwill, improve things, etc. He's now decided, or his people that he employs has now decided, that they're going to introduce a similar scheme for Valencia tickets, which at the moment is probably not going to be challenged very much with the team doing so bad, because maybe the demand might not be there. But how's that gone down, Stu, with the Valencia fans? I mean, are they really angry about this? And if so, is there any kind of supporters movement to try and put pressure on them to get rid of this? Or
I think, as far as I know, the dynamic pricing came in for the Barcelona game, and it was a big surprise when it came in. But most of the people who go to see Valencia have season tickets. Now, some people normally were €100 anyway to go and see Barcelona, because all the season tickets would be taken. So the dynamic pricing it's more to try and rip off tourists than anything else. People were angry because they maybe see that, is this the future? Is this what you're going to do? Because this sounds like you're just ripping people off. There was no anger that they were trying to rip off Valencia fans. But it's just a bit of a shady outlook moving forward in football if that's going to happen constantly. I mean, if you do it with Barcelona, Real Madrid, if we can make some bucks off of them, fair enough. But if they bring that in for every game, it's not good. Yeah,
this seems to be a Spanish thing, because most people are season ticket holders, or socios at least, as like club members, which is a lot of people will be a member or a season ticket holder in Spain, and the season tickets are cheap. But yeah, today Real Betis announced the prices for Atletico game at the end of the month, and the cheapest ticket's 110. Now, the other week for Espanyol it was something like 45 or something along those lines. So it's just like a huge amount of money, and they'll do the same for Barcelona, Real Madrid, the derby. Sevilla do it as well, from what I can see, for the big clubs. So that seems to be a thing that I think they're aiming towards tourists.
But I think there is a big flaw in the whole system, in that in Spain they often don't announce when the game will be until about 3 weeks before it. So when they bring in dynamic pricing, exactly, yeah. I think one time when Levante were in the top league, we were told it was going to be a Sunday, so I arranged it with 8 days' notice. It was moved to the Friday. Now I can move my work schedule, but a lot of other people can't. And it's all well and good saying we're going to bring in dynamic pricing to encourage people to get in early, but how can they buy tickets for a game when they don't know when it's going to be? That's the reason why there's no massive away fan culture in Spain.
Exactly.
Because people can't book hotels unless you know which night you're going to be in the city for. It's an obvious point, but Whereas my sister has an away and a home and away season ticket for Arsenal, but all of those games are planned well in advance, 6 weeks, 8 weeks in advance. So she's got time to switch her schedule. She can book the hotel room. That cannot happen in Spain. I think Spain is one of the few places you can't do dynamic pricing unless you have a rule that everyone knows 6 to 8 weeks in advance when the game's going to be.
And the dynamic pricing will be for the big teams, and a lot of those games are the ones that are likely to move. Because if Barcelona or Real Madrid are playing in the Champions League, La Liga do this really, really well, where they protect their teams who are playing in Europe, so they'll change their games all the time. That's a good thing, I guess. I mean, but then you're screwing over the little guy who, I'm going away to see Barcelona, but they've now moved the game, so I'm losing my hotel, losing my train.
Exactly.
Or I got to go to Barcelona, but I don't get to see the football anymore.
Yeah. Last year, I saw a stat that Girona were one of the teams that had their games moved a lot. Well, because at the start of the season, nobody expected anything from them. Suddenly, 25 games in, it's like, wow, we're top of the league, we're near the top. And suddenly everyone wants to see them play. So when you want to see them play, you move their games to get the biggest audience. So the
Saturday, 9 o'clock, Sunday, 9 o'clock.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then all the little teams like Valencia get moved to Monday night, or
yeah, no, it's true. No, because if Valencia is 16th, who wants to watch them? So you'll move them to the graveyard shift, you know.
Well, I've noticed the Monday night one is for the bigger clubs that will get the viewing figures that aren't in Europe. I noticed that because Betis, when they weren't in Europe, always seemed to be on a Monday night. I think that's something that they do. So that's probably why Valencia's getting the Monday.
Whereas we had one season, I think it was 2018-19, where shown 7 times in the first 19 weeks on a Friday. And it was because there was a 4-year season, there was a 4-year period where if you added up the amount of goals that a team scored and conceded, 3 years Levante were top and 1 year they were second. And that was because we were having games where we were beating Barcelona 5-4. We were winning 6-4 against other teams and losing, was it 6-3 against Sevilla? We were scoring goals, we were conceding goals. So they used to like to put us on the Friday. It was, we'd have a good game to kick off the weekend. You'd be in the bar, you'd have the game on in the background, and it would draw your eye to the game. But it was kind of frustrating for us because we were always on a Friday. And we wanted to be, you couldn't really get pretty much drinks in before the game, because the game was kicking off at 7:30. So you had to rush from work and you barely had 45 minutes in the bar. And we missed out on that whole fan culture of being in the bar for a few hours before the game. It was frustrating.
I mean, a Saturday game or a Sunday game, just after lunch, get a pie in, have a few beers, go to the game, head to the pub afterwards to moan about it. That's part of it. That's part of why you continue going. There's a group of 6 to 8 of us that go. And that's it. It's okay, where are we going to eat today? Where are we going to pay? Where are we going to go for drinks before? Where should we go and watch the Atletico Madrid match after and have a few more beers? That's part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So our next game is Monday night for Valencia at home against Las Palmas, which is a huge game for us. And it's Monday night at 9 o'clock. It's like, what do we do?
I know.
Nowhere's open on a Monday.
I know. This is it. And then if you've had to get up at 8 o'clock to go to work that day, it's different. If it's a Saturday, you can have a lie-in. You can get up at 10 and then so relax the whole day, and then you can go late into the night. But on a Monday
night, 9 o'clock, I'm going to my bed soon.
Exactly, yeah. So that's
definitely something that La Liga needs to look at is the scheduling, I think. So in terms of the ultras at Levante, Jimmy, is there any? Do they have any? Because usually in Spain the ultras have some sort of kind of political affiliation. What is it at Levante? Do they have that element, or?
It is. It's not open. I mean, they're left wing. They're definitely left wing. And definitely Valenciano as opposed to Spanish, but it's not that prominent. You don't see the flags, at certain clubs like St. Pauli, you see the flags where they make it pretty clear what their politics is.
And Cádiz and Rayo Vallecano as well,
They don't really do that at Levante. I did notice at the game on Sunday when I was at the game against Real Oviedo that they've moved the ultras to right behind the goal in the north stand. They used to be tucked away in the corner. It's also worth noting up until a couple of years ago, the ultras were paying €90 a year for their season ticket, which is €90 for a season ticket is beyond cheap, less than €5 a game, which I think is great because they do add such an atmosphere. And since they put the roof on the Levante Stadium, the atmosphere has gone up a lot more.
Yeah,
that's great with the new roof. It's a really, really nice atmosphere there. I have to admit. It's a bit American-y with all the lights and everything, but still.
Yes. That's it, yeah.
Stu, Valencia fans, they have a bit of a reputation of a bit like Betis being a bit right-wing, the ultras, is that right?
Right now, in the past, I think there was a good mixture. I mean, I've had some friends who would sit with ultras, but there was at the time left-wing, there was some massively far-right people there. Now they've amalgamated them and it is basically right-wing, We've obviously seen and heard of some of the troubles with Vinny Jr. getting abused, bottles thrown, I mean, the very junior abuse was racist, which we saw, which was disgusting. But yeah, it's not as bad as it was in the past, but it's still there.
Yeah, I mean the racism thing is not just a problem at Mestalla. I mean that's a nationwide problem or a worldwide problem as well. I think that's something to maybe touch on in another pod, because that's quite a deep thing to go into.
Yeah, you can talk about that for a good couple of hours.
Okay, so just to wrap up this second episode of the Football Culture Podcast on Valencia then. So, Jimmy, someone's going to come to Valencia and they're going to come to a Levante fan. They're going to come to a Levante game, or maybe hopefully they'll meet some Levante fans. So, what do you recommend they do if they want to come to a Levante game? Not just at the stadium or before the match, but what they could do in the city as well.
As I said before, Valencia is really one of the best cities you can visit. Right next to the stadium is the tram, the line 6, and that takes you all the way from the beach to the stadium. When I went to the game on the Sunday, we went down to the beach beforehand, playing with the kid on the beach, and then we jumped onto the tram. We were at the stadium in about 20-25 minutes. There was quite a few Levante fans down at the beach with the botellons, with the 1 litre bottles of beer, drinking the beer, jump on the tram, go up to the game. So I personally would really recommend that. That's really nice. There's a great atmosphere on the tram. Everyone's chatting to each other. There was a Real Zaragoza fan there, and he said, "Oh, you probably don't like me because we beat you last week." And I said, "Well, I really don't like you because I'm an Arsenal fan. You beat us in the 95."
Of course. Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh my God, yeah." He was stunned to hear that. But that's the thing. Go down to the beach first of all. You can be in the centre of Valencia and you can walk to the Levante Stadium in like 35 minutes. So if you want to be right in the historic city centre, it's a gorgeous walk. You come out of the you walk up Calle de Serranos, and then you walk through the Serranos Tower. You walk over the Turia, which is where the old river used to be, which is now converted into one of the best parks in Europe. You then just walk, through these little working class neighborhoods. I haven't been regularly to games for about 4 or 5 years now, but there are so many bars you could get beers for €1.50 for a 33 centiliter bottle. Really lovely bars and everything like that. So I would say either go down to the beach and get the tram to the stadium, or just go drinking in the city centre and just walk it. It's super chilled, the area is safe. You're not going to get much trouble. I would say around the Levante Stadium, there's a big shopping centre, so it's not the most romantic setting right next to the stadium,
No, it's not, is it?
Beers on the beach and a walk down the river park sounds good. Okay, so Stu, someone wants to visit Valencia and they want to take in a game at the Mestalla. What do you recommend? Where should they go? What should they do? How should they enjoy a match day at Valencia CF?
So, as we were talking about before, Valencia is a beautiful city. I absolutely love it. So, come for the weekend, come for a couple of days. You can see the vast majority of Valencia in a weekend. You can walk everywhere. The public transport is excellent. Come down and see us both if you can. But Valencia, go down to the beach, find somewhere for a nice paella, walk up to the Turia Park, get down to Mestalla around there about 2 hours before, an hour before. There's plenty of bars. Get some nice cheap beers, get some nice cheap aniseed. Liqueur Cafaya, you'll smell it. It's some people love it, some people hate it, but definitely try it, and that'll give you a nice buzz for getting in to see seeing Valencia hopefully win a game for once in a while. Okay, sounds like a good plan. And the local beer is Turia, which I do recommend. That's a lovely beer, so get that down if you can. I'm not a fan, I have to say, but
okay.
Yeah,
Well,
Therese as well. Therese is a very good one as well.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
This is the.
So Therese is a beer company. They've got about 8 different types of beer. Yeah, but also it's worth mentioning. It's quite common for a lot of the fans to just drink on the street. So if you can't get into a bar, don't worry. You can go into the bar and buy a few cans of beer in the bar, and then just drink them in the street outside.
Good shout. So you could have a Cruz Campo. That sounds like a much better idea. Although
no Cruz Campo.
The Spain Beer Wars. I think that's the Spanish Football Beer Wars is a podcast in itself, so maybe one for the future. Okay, thanks very much to my guests Jimmy and Stu today, talking about Valencia, episode 2 of the Football Culture Podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please like, subscribe, comment, etc. Really does help. Give us some good reviews, and see you for the next episode. Thanks very much. Bye bye.
Brilliant.
Cheers,
Bye
Francis.
now.